This is Straight Talk with Atlanta Greg Penn, the Preacher Man, and his sidekick Shannon Jones. Frank discussions of issues affecting the ATL, Fulton County, the state of Georgia, the nation, and around the world. And now, here they are, live and in living color, the team of Jones and Fan, the Preacher Man.
Today, on Straight Talk with our special guest, today, the Reverend Samuel Mosteller. Reverend Mosteller is the former state president of the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, founded by the late Dr. Martin Luther King and many others. My pastor, the late pastor, the Reverend Dr. Albert Anthony. With my co-host Shannon Jones today. Shannon, how you doing?
And if I was doing any better, I'd be Greg Fan.
Well, why you so sharp?
Yeah, you sharp.
I mean, you sharp, man. Why you sharp, man?
I had to go talk to the Africans today.
Oh, you did?
Talk to my African brothers.
Why are you whispering?
Did the mic work?
Yeah.
I'm trying to save my voice. Sunday yet coming, I got to hoop enough to raise something so I can come give you something for your anniversary.
Well, praise the Lord. Get a little louder, son. Get a little louder.
Keep whispering. Let him whisper. He's all right. Got to save his voice.
Well, Sam, we're glad to have you here today with us today.
Well, it is nothing. I am always ecstatic. That's a word I learned yesterday, and I thought I would use it today. And just ecstatic to be anywhere that Greg Fan is and Shannon Jones, that you all run the South Side over here so well and represent people, not just the church, but the community. And we still do it, and you all still do it. I'm going to say we because I've been on a hiatus away from you Negroes and white folks the last little bit. I haven't been in any meetings or anything that's been viable for the last little bit.
And how's that been for you, Reverend? You look good.
I've been feeling good. I lost about 40 pounds, changed my diet, I got my house painted. I'm ready to remodel the kitchen and 2 or 3 bathrooms and stuff like that. But see, what happened to me is my wife passed away.
Right.
She passed away 2 years ago. And after that, I just throwed up both hands and let all y'all go for a while, right, so I can get myself together. We were together 42 years.
Wow, right.
She's a great girl, the best ever. And if it hadn't been for her,
you wouldn't be nothing.
I wouldn't have never got married. I would never got married. If it wasn't for her, it would have just been a line of children scattered all across the county.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
All across 5, 6 states, and 2 or 3 countries. And
straight talk.
I'm just trying to help y'all. Y'all want straight talk now. And if it hadn't been for her, she was a very disciplined person and as sweet as cotton candy. And boy, I miss her every day. But it's all right. It's all right. We had such a great time together. Only thing I can do is smile. Sometimes I had to grin. I'm just telling you, she was that great. And sometimes people come by just to witness, and I didn't know she'd help them.
Wow.
Yeah, here they come whispering, your wife did such and such for me, I did so and so for me, and I didn't have no idea. She never told me or anything, but she was always doing something for somebody somewhere. You know, she worked at the Fulton County shelter for 33 years, and so she got all them children.
Right.
And she worked in the baby room 15 years. So baby would come in at 6 weeks old, and sometimes they leave out at 15 years old.
Wow.
And she was the only mama they knew.
Right.
And we can go anywhere in any part of the state, sit down in a park, and 25 children would run up to her, screaming her name like she was Michael Jackson, and could gather all around her with grown folks and everything that she had lifted up and got them homes and houses and jobs and education. Oh, she had done a whole lot of stuff with different things. So she was their mother too. Right. So we had a grand relationship. So I just, it's about time for me to come out and see Greg Fan and Shannon Jones and say hello to the folks and to tell the SCLC they need to get off their gluteus maximus because they ain't done nothing since I quit going down there.
Well, I tell you, before we transition into that, it's something that God gives us. Good wives and good mates to do the work that we
we're called to do.
Yes, sir.
You know, that money can't buy.
Oh, you can't
So
purchase it.
in other words, the work that we do doesn't make us rich financially, but substance-wise, we're wealthy.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be rich. I just don't have my money yet.
Your money's coming.
Yeah,
I was talking
yeah.
to one pastor, his wife transitioned after 50 years.
Yeah.
And he said he was sitting at home. He said, you know, I didn't know she did all she did.
That's right.
He said he's sitting at home, all of a sudden the lights just went out. He said, well, dang, she did pay the electricity.
She paid all the bills. She paid the bill. I just bring the money. She paid the bill.
She did all the other work.
All of
but
that.
I just want to tell you all, I appreciate you all inviting me out today. I do have a grand time every time I come to this show.
So do we.
It is, again, one of the heartbeats of the community. And you all handle every relevant issue that comes along, both nationally and locally. And so it is my honor, not your honor, it's my honor to be here, to come and share these few moments with you and your audience and your followers.
Well, Sam, let me just, I know Shannon, we got a couple questions we want to ask you. But you're full of information in terms of where are we today, as you see, in terms of social justice, and with the climate being the way it is. And I'm not talking about Republican or Democrat, because there's no difference between that. I'm talking about where are we headed as a country and as a people today, as you see it.
Social justice costs too much for black folk to pay the price, is what I see. If you are in social justice, you're just about gonna have to load the wagon, pull the wagon, and unload it when you get wherever you're going. If you say, we're gonna march, there's 25 people gonna tell you it's useless to march. It's not true. Because when I look over in the conservative end of town and the Trump folk,
they're marching.
Not only marching, they rally.
Yeah, rallying, shooting, and everything.
Anything else, they rallying. They done got bought a AR-15. Then they go put on a red hat and go rally. Then they go march, and then they march on the Capitol on January 6th. And when he said so.
Right.
Our people think that because they have central air and central heat now, instead of a stove and wood stove, that they have made it now. If I come in and turn on my air, I really ain't got nowhere, I ain't got to go nowhere else. I can make it right here. I watch you march. I watch you from the TV or something, but I ain't coming.
Right.
I ain't coming, I'm not gonna support it. I don't think that I need to give you any money. So social justice is a hard thing for black folks to deal with now, because they think it's all about economics only. Well, they don't know that they didn't get any economics until direct action and social justice bought it for them.
Sam, you hit a point. You hit a point there. Direct action. Action.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand what direct action means. So I think that one of the things, especially if we see our young people out here, they started with Black Lives Matter and all those things, and they were marching and they were demonstrating. Dr. King said something years ago, and I recall as a young person, he said that we're reactionary people, we're not proactive.
Right.
And so when we talk about direct action, there were strategies and things that were put in place to deal with issues before those issues became, to the forefront, because people think that everything is all right now, and they're not looking at what's going to be happening in the future. You said something that is very clear in terms of direct action. Donald Trump has created a machine that deals with nothing but direct action. Well, he has loaded the Supreme Court, he has loaded the appellate court, he has loaded all of these places and things with people who are dealing with direct action to make things happen prior to it actually happening.
Yeah. All he did was follow the Dr. King model.
Right.
See, we didn't follow the Dr. King model.
Right.
We followed the Franklin Roosevelt model. We thought that government programming was going to solve what we need to do, but Dr. King took what he had, which was the black church at the time.
Right.
And so after Dr. King, though, when you study government, I'd have to say this after much study, and I know it's controversial, but
This is a controversial program.
the American government.
We some controversial Negroes.
Yeah, well, y'all.
So you
But this is straight talk now.
have thine own way, sir.
You're messing with the well-trained revolutionary Negro who have not declared a revolution just yet. Because there's more than two of us get together. They swear we conspiring. And I try to tell them, just because we're talking and conspiring, that doesn't mean it's a conspiracy.
That's right.
Okay, all right. But back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump just followed the Martin Luther King model.
Right.
And the Martin Luther King model was just like you said, direct action
Right.
to deal with the future of a people. Now, why was Donald Trump doing that? Now, you know, when Donald Trump got to be president, he was the dumbest president we ever had. Dumbest. Now, I didn't say he wasn't slick. I didn't say he wasn't innately intelligent. I did not say he didn't know how to manipulate government systems and banks and stuff like that. He knows how to do all that.
Right.
But academically, you have never heard Donald Trump say, I graduated from
Anywhere.
that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So, and so his thing has been street processing from the start. And because he was able to tell white people it was all right to be white and prejudiced, which they were already prejudiced, they just, because of Dr. King, couldn't be prejudiced in the daytime. They were always prejudiced in the voting booth. They were always prejudiced at the workplace. They were always prejudiced at the schoolhouse. They've always been prejudiced at those other places all the time. But they are able to, Dr. King said it this way. He said, I'm not going to be able to change the hearts and the minds of Americans, so I'm going to have to be satisfied to modify their behavior.
Right.
So he modified all of their behavior and our behavior. And when Donald Trump got to the White House, Dr. Fan, he saw the truth of y'all black folk, because they've been watching y'all forever. I'm talking about every preacher. I was talking to a CIA guy one time, and he said every preacher got a profile. The national government, every preacher got a profile. And one of the communications guys said that they got all y'all phone tapped. All you pastors and preachers and stuff like that. And to keep up with y'all, and particularly Atlanta, because J. Edgar Hoover said, there'll never be another Martin Luther King. And if it is to be a Martin Luther King, gonna rise out of Atlanta. So anytime you get somebody in Atlanta to rise up,
That's what's going on.
That's a formal program, but there's an informal program that goes on, which is when you rise up to try to do what's right, Dr. Fan,
Right.
they send the Info Negro to help cut the support for you.
Wow.
And your money and your support from the national level, or Democratic Party, Republican Party, wherever it is, because they do not want another.
Martin Luther King.
That's right.
Stop the rise of a black messiah.
Well, you can't stop him because, see, the Messiah don't come from us.
Yeah.
We didn't rise Dr. King. God raised him up.
Come on now.
You know, they chose him at 26. He was too young.
Yeah.
When back in 1956, if you were 26, you could barely get up to say hello. Yeah. An old preacher wouldn't let you get up and say nothing at 26. Mm-hmm. And here he was leading the whole country. Yeah. That wasn't designed. His daddy wouldn't have picked him.
Right.
Yeah. And they wouldn't have picked him in Montgomery, except everybody else down there had a bad reputation. And he was the only one in town 15 minutes. And they didn't have no reputation, and he could talk. Mm-hmm. My grandfather, who ran the South Atlanta Civic League for about 65 years, he said, he called Dr. King that boy. He said, that boy sure could talk. He said, he made me sit up and listen to him. And I was talking to Willie Bolden. Willie Bolden said, Dr. King ain't never told nobody, y'all can stand up now. He said he stood you up with his voice, sat you back down with his voice. Stood you back up with his voice, set you back down with his voice. Nobody can talk like Dr. King. Dr. King, and I was studying this here some time ago. Dr. King could keep 7 audiences in rapt attention without losing any of them, from the sharecropper in Mississippi to the most high-level intellect in Rome. The Pope had to pay attention when Dr. King talked. You ever listen to him, he'll take that message and go from street sweeper all the way to the president. We ain't never had no black person other than the one in the Civil War, big hat. I can't call it.
You can't call it right now, but
he was a historical figure. But Dr. King advised 5 presidents. He was the #1 advisor for 5 presidents. And he was 26, 27. He didn't live no longer than 39.
Right.
5 presidents, and they did what he told them.
LBJ.
Huh?
Were you thinking LBJ?
All of them, not just one of them. Eisenhower didn't want to deal with no black folk. He made him deal with black folk. Truman didn't want to deal with no black folk. He made him deal with them.
Right.
LBJ, Kennedy, none of them want to deal with black people. But what? He made them deal with them because God raised him. They could not. This is what happened to Obama. The king has arisen, but the prophet never did show up.
Right.
He never had a prophet to get him on the right track, to give him that backbone that he got to have in order to do what a king got to do. Look at David.
He ran away from his prophet, Jeremiah Wright.
Well, that's right. That's when he became less than great. He was good and okay, but he was never great because he didn't have a prophet. Now, the greatest president in our history for black folk was LBJ, and he was a segregationist. That's a God work now. That ain't
right.
That ain't, you know, the LBJ was a staunch segregationist. He was the leader of the segregationists. He was leading them to make sure he kept his foot on our neck all the time out of West Texas until Dr. King rose.
To the Messiah.
Walked in.
Yeah.
Walked in the White House and told him,
he did.
You're going to have to do so and so and so. He said, Martin, I just passed the Civil Rights Law last year, and here you come wanting the Voting Rights Act this year. Martin said, you're going to have to do it. He went back to the Senate and made them do it. No, Martin just told him, you're going to do it. He went back and made them do it. The tape said, you can hear Richard B. Russell on there saying, hey, Landon. He said, Lyndon told him, said, hell, that was when I was a senator. Now I'm the president now.
You know, Sam is a well knowledgeable individual historian about our history.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to bring him on. And Sam, we're gonna bring you back on because you got so much information that you can share with our listeners, and it's straight talk. So this program is about straight talk.
Let me say this right here.
Sure.
Let me tell you this now. I come from Somerville, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't have no right to be smart like I am. I come from a ragtag, badass, bootlegging, Negro shoot it out, cut them up, Negro program.
Right.
Yeah, that was my first program. And by the time I went to college, I met an Egyptologist and a historian who had me on a reading program. That's the first thing he had me reading.
Right.
See, if you want to know something, Dr. King's power didn't come from theology.
Right.
His power came from philosophy.
Right.
When he get to talking about Euripides and Aristophanes and gathered around the Parthenon. See, because he had a doctorate in philosophy, not a doctorate in theology. He had a master's in theology. So my power of history comes from Egyptology. I spent 4 years reading nothing but Egypt and the foundation of modern civilization, the Greek Empire and the Roman Empire, how they got to do it. And that America, the reason America is great is that they didn't follow any of the models of Europe. That model is based on the Egyptian model and the Masonic order. Mm-hmm. If you don't know that, then you'll never understand how this government operates. And that, what does that mean? That means it's operating in the veil of secrecy. You don't know the secret. Dick Gregory used to tell me this right here. Dick Gregory said, Mosteller, if the CIA come and tell you something, what do? I said, I don't know. What would I do? He said, call a press conference and tell them whatever they damn told you. You go tell it. He said, because more Nick rolls in the grave for trying to hold on to a secret. you go tell them. He said, they going to call you crazy, but you go tell them everything they told you. And they kept telling him. Everywhere he went, Dick Gregory said he'd get off a plane in Paris and the KGB report to him. Huh? The British report to him, the secret folk come to tell him, and he said they brought him evidence. Sometimes he open that briefcase of his and show you a memorandum and something signed by somebody way up somewhere in the Pentagon or over in Russia or somewhere. We as black folks underestimate who we really are as a people. That's what I found out in that study of Egypt. And Asa Hilliard, my buddy, before he died.
Right,
over there.
Dr. Hilliard.
Yeah, Dr. Hilliard, Dr. Asa Hilliard, real smart. And once you learn that you are the same one that built the pyramid, and that's the reason for slavery. They had to get you out from your pyramid. They had to get you out from your land. They had to get you out.
Can we stop right here and just take a break, and we're going to come back on the other side.
Hi, Miss C here with your 3-minute news blast. Listen, coming up on September the 5th, there's going to be a big Labor Day celebration beginning at 10 a.m. with a march in front of the IBEW building at 501 Pulliam Street in Atlanta. Following the march, the festivities begin at the UAW Auditorium at 3815 Gilbert Road in Hateville. There will be food, games, and raffles and prizes. That's on September 5th, beginning at 10 a.m. at the IBEW building. Okay, I want you to check out Rhythm and Rhyme, featuring R&B legend Tony Terry, joined by gospel recording artist Stephanie Caldwell and comedian Terrell Brown. Come see dance, comedy, music, and so much more at the Salvation Army Kroc Center, 967 Dewey Street in Atlanta. That's September the 3rd at 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Hey, the Sweet Auburn Music Fest will be held September the 23rd, and it's going to be at the Walden Middle School, 320 Irwin Street in Atlanta. That's September the 23rd and September the 25th, so you have 2 days to enjoy from 11 to 8 p.m. It's going to be a fun-filled weekend full of live music, good food, national artists, and celebrities, and it's all free. The Sweet Auburn Fest is one of the South's largest multi-genre music festivals in Atlanta. To get more details, just visit them at www.sweetauburnmusicfest.com. Well, that's going to do it for me for now. But listen, I'd like for you, before we go, 4 things. I'd like for you to subscribe and like, and there are some buttons right there on your screen. You just push those buttons. And number 3, I'd like for you to share us. And number 4, please leave us some comments. Let us know how we're doing. We would really like to hear from you, okay? And if you have any news you'd like to share, send it to me at straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. That's straighttalknews1362@gmail.com. And we're going to see you right back here next time. I hope you have a wonderful week.
We're back with the Reverend Samuel Mosteller, and he is, he's talking to us a lot of great stuff. He's giving us some historical facts and information. And if you would pick up that, then Shannon has something he wants to ask you.
Yes, sir.
I just want to deal with what we were talking about the pyramid.
Okay. See, we got to find out, and I found this out now. There's a white guy out there at West Georgia College where I went, me and Creflo and a whole bunch of other folk went out there. They followed me out there. They were freshmen when I was a senior. They came. Well, I came out there when there wasn't no black folks out there. Anyway, this guy picked me up and started teaching me. And I didn't understand why he was doing it. Later on, I found out he was just trying to make me individually stronger, because he was getting ready to transition. He's an older man by now. He's probably trying to make some amends for some stuff he'd done before. I don't know, but it don't matter to me. He was just pushing me and asking me questions every day on Egypt. He'd give me a reading assignment, and then I'd talk to him at 10 o'clock in the morning in the library about it, and then we'll talk about modern times and what's going on with the government and all that kind of thing. Well, found out that these same folks, Egypt, it's called the Nile Valley civilization. Started down by Lake Victoria and moved north all the way up to Alexandria. It was the last place. The Alexandria Library was the last place. And the Alexandria Library was Aristotle's library when he went with Alexander the Great across the world all the way to Afghanistan. That's where Alexander the Great's tour ended. Him and Aristotle came back, and Aristotle brought all of the artifacts, all of the world's history in antiquity, and put it in the library at Alexandria. The Romans burned the library at Alexandria to hide the fact of who you are, Greg Fan, and you, Shannon Jones. You don't know who you are, you just think you're African. But you're more than African. Let me just say it this way. You God's people, and God talk to y'all. Now, we act a fool. You know, most of us drinking liquor and chasing after women and don't listen to the voice of God. But when we listen, He talking clearly. And if we listen and do it, we come out on top every time. Not just half the time, not just part time. That's what Dr. King plugged into. He wouldn't listen to nobody. He couldn't even listen to Jesse Jackson, C.T. Vivian, and Ralph Abner. He didn't listen to none of them. Couldn't listen to him. Jose, none of them. Willie Bolden told me, he said, Dr. King wouldn't even participate in the meeting. He said, we'd be in there arguing and fussing and fighting and arguing back and forth. So Dr. King would be sitting over there by himself with his head down. He sit over there most of the meeting. He said after a while he'd get up, walk to the front. I got it. I know what we're going to do. And that's where they would go from there. I'm serious. He in the meeting with them. They in there fighting.
But he talking to another strategy.
They talking to another program. And see, when you do that, that is the secret to greatness, is to commune with God the way black folks used to. Now, if you ain't old enough, Dr. Jones, Senator Jones, sir, but you old enough to remember. Well, yeah, you got me by a day or two. Old enough to remember, a lot of the older people sat on the porch and never moved. We didn't have no telephone back then, maybe one telephone in the community. But you could be 4 blocks over and walk by Miss Ann's house, and she'd call you and tell you everything you did 4 blocks over.
I remember that.
and it was amazing to me. The other thing they could do was you burn your hand real bad. What would happen? They had somebody in the community that could talk fire out to burn, and there wouldn't be no scar on your leg. Am I right? See, what we did was we tried to follow.
You don't tell me about all this stuff.
We tried to follow
Your
your
old self.
Let me just tell you something. Reason I don't
You
tell
can't
you,
take it with yourself. You got to teach it to me.
The reason I don't tell you about it is you're hard-headed, you're stubborn. You don't listen.
Well, we had somebody to do all that. And my grandmother, who was born in 1898, she said, we didn't have no doctors. See, anybody who went to the doctor was dying. They were almost dead before they went to the doctor. She said, everything we doctored folk with was found out in the woods and the bushes. We had to find the right tree or the right bush or the right plant or the right root or the right something else to deal with them.
You tell the truth about that.
Yeah. My aunt was born blind. Blind to the back, couldn't see. For 2 years she was blind. Her grandmama was searching for some certain root, she said. So she finally found it. When she put it on her eyes, sight. I'm just telling you.
He said, let me interject here. Sam was absolutely correct about that because I used to get poison ivy. Every year I used to get poison ivy. Every year. And my grandmother said, she said, go get that poison ivy root.
Yeah.
And she got the root of the poison ivy and boiled it in hot water, made tea. And I drank it. I had to drink it. And after I drank, I haven't had poison ivy since. I haven't had poison ivy since. But they did.
Different things.
They did different things. That's why cod liver oil was used so much for us. We didn't go to no doctor. They just give him some cod liver oil. Give him some.
My mother said they would line them up.
Yeah.
They were
Cod liver oil every morning.
They did.
Yeah, that was
nobody ever got sick.
Yeah, that was in one
We went to school.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't want to get sick. You didn't want to get sick because they had some more medicine, more terrible than cod liver oil. But it started out with early in the fall. They line you up first of all and give you a dose of castor oil. Every season they got to clean you out.
Right, they don't do that.
They don't clean you out. Then they gonna start up with leave some 666 black draw or some of that other stuff up there on the mantelpiece. And then you start out with
don't
castor
forget
oil.
the 3S tonic. Now the 3S tonic. That 3S tonic. Yeah,
and then you started out with cod liver oil to maintain what they had already put together in the early part of the fall. That was the health program.
Right.
Now we talk about go to the doctor and they give us chemicals and you be halfway sick and snobbling, snot running down your nose and down your head.
Take this pill for a
take
stomach
more
ache,
pills.
another king will kill you.
All
cause you
that.
to go crazy.
But let's get back to, then Egypt had all that.
Right.
And they had most stuff that we haven't even yet begun to find out how they did it. They got steel that won't rust. They got glass made out of sand that you can bend double with your hand. They got that. They got examples of it, but they won't talk to you about it because they know you did it.
Black folk.
Yeah, y'all did it. Y'all did it. We did it.
Yeah, we did.
And the question becomes, who then is trying to separate us from our history? Well, can't be white folk. They were poor white trash. They were Euro trash. Sorry, white folk. But y'all were Euro trash, and Europe was trying to get rid of y'all because they couldn't afford y'all no more. So they sent y'all here where we had made the land of plenty and told y'all were better than us and had the law set up to where y'all felt like you better than us. But my grandmama and them old black folk never did let them be better than they were. Never. Look at Harriet Tubman. She never did let them be better than her. And slavery was in vogue.
It was.
And they were trying to kill her. I think they had a bounty on her for $30,000. And she still went south. Still came in amongst them.
So let me ask you this. Let's bring it.
We got to break it
No,
down.
not-
You
yeah,
got
yeah.
to cut it off in a
Well,
minute.
I got to get back to one more thing.
Every
before
time
we
I
go.
got a question, we got to break. I'm starting to feel some kind of way.
Go and ask the question, but you know, time is
time.
It's up time.
Thank you so very much.
So
We have another
just-
segment.
As the Greeks stole from the Egyptians,
Yeah.
the other day I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about this Trump situation.
Yeah.
And the FBI going to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
And so now there's a movement they're talking about going and kill the judges, and now that and now kill the police. We're gonna take up arms against the FBI.
Right.
We saw the guy went there to the FBI, and they had to kill him. It was it. But this is what. Now they're talking about defund the FBI. I said, wait a minute. Now, when y'all was back to blue last on January the 5th, you were back to blue on January 5th.
Right.
All right. January 6th, they went to the Capitol.
Well.
But January 5th, they were back in the blue. Now they've taken the language of the young African American activists.
Black Lives
that were talking-
Matter.
Yeah, they were talking about defund the police. Now and that's a terrible thing. Now They stolen that. Now they talking about
Yeah, well.
defund the FBI,
Well-
defund law enforcement.
Well, this is where we're
White
headed.
folk.
Yeah, I know, but this is where we're headed.
This is Sam. Now.
This is where we're headed.
Tell him, Sam.
The black folks ain't gonna be in this revolution. I was talking to a guy from Birmingham working in steel mills named Mr. Colvin. I said, Mr. Colvin, how you handle white folk? He said, whatever white folk come up with something, I tell them, this here is between y'all white folk. I start using that. They get me and put me in the middle of something. I say, that's between y'all white folk, and then I go on home, because Mr. Colvin taught me that. Well, this thing, this conservative thing that Trump is doing, is really not between black folks and white folks. Trump was very careful not to antagonize black folk. He was very careful not to do that. Even though under his folk and his followers were trying to antagonize. Trump was very careful not to antagonize black folk because he done found out. So when you get to be president, you get to know all the truth. And you can't handle it. It'll make your hair go gray every time, make you look 40 years older because you find
That's
out.
why they age like that.
Oh, yeah, they know too much. And I don't want to know it. Some things you just don't want to know. Just stay on your farm and raise some collard greens and be happy. But Trump found the truth out. And he is not going to antagonize black folk. He wouldn't do it. Look back. He ain't never said nothing negative about no black folks at all, except for the fact that he didn't know no better than to say, that's my African American over there. You know what that means? That's mine. Oh yeah, he didn't know no better than to say that because he's not used to dealing with black folks on a real level. But he wouldn't antagonize black folks at all, which tells you what? The argument is not between black folks and Trump. We up arguing, hollering, and fussing about Trump and doing all that, but it's not us that he doing anything with.
So those white, like Samuel Jackson said, you a white man, white people problem. Them white people.
That's between y'all white folk.
Well, this is between us,
Civil
and
War.
we're gonna be back.
Huh?
We gonna bring
Ideological civil war
we gonna bring Sam back
Got to
and
come
have
back.
him go back again here on Straight Talk with more information. This ain't nothing but Straight Talk, so we can go on and on and on. And you know Shannon today, he can really go on, but today I've cut him
I
off.
got on my interviewing suit.
I got on my Brian Gumbo suit, Doc.
My God.
But we gonna bring Sam back and on another program so we can get more information. He's full of information. And if you want to know more about what's going on, just keep tuned to nothing but this program, Straight Talk, with your truly great friend, the preacher man, and Shannon E. Jones. And we thank our special guest, Samuel Mosteller, for just sharing with us today. Thank you, Sam.
Reverend.
Want to be a guest on Straight Talk? Email Greg Fan at FANN922 at Comcast.net or call 404-308-0795. Join us again for another episode of Straight Talk with Shannon Jones and Greg Fan, the Preacher Man.